My dear friends, Joe Wright here, and I'm excited to share some background regarding the Valley of the Names, how it came about, and a little about the geology, because the geology actually plays an important part in why people chose to put their names out in the Valley of Names. Well, so the history goes back to 1943 during World War II when a military camp was established at this location called Camp Pilot Knob. And the name comes from the mountain Pilot Knob that is near the camp, which is also near Yuma, Arizona. Now, Camp Pilot Knob was basically a desert training center that was created by General George S. Patton, and it was to prepare the American troops for battle during World War II. And it was mostly for desert warfare, but all sorts of training occurred at these 12 camps, which were established all around the southwest United States in the desert. Now, this particular training camp was only in existence for roughly 1 year, approximately 14 months, from 1943 to 1944. The 85th Infantry Division, in addition to several other squadrons, were trained here. And just so that you're aware, an American U.S. Army division has roughly 10 to 15,000 soldiers in it. Now, the camp had no permanent buildings. It had showers, it had latrines, storage trucks, kitchens, but they were all composed of tents with wooden frames. And they were all removed when the camp left in 1944. So what is amazing about it, if you look at this picture that I'm showing you here right now, that 80 plus years after the camp was abandoned, you can still see the dirt roads and the locations of the tents on the desert floor. And this just really shows you how fragile this desert is in terms of when human impacts occur on it. It can take centuries for it to heal. So what does all this have to do with the creation of the Valley of the Names? Well, the gun ranges and the training for Camp Pilot Knob was done just north of the camp, northwest of the camp, which is now known as the Valley of the Names. The soldiers, on their downtime, and the Army, being a former soldier, in the Army, you're very busy, and then you have nothing to do. You're rush, do all sorts of stuff, and then you have all this downtime, which can be really boring. So what the soldiers began doing is arranging rocks to write their names on the desert floor. After the camp was abandoned, those names continued to stay there. In the 1950s and 60s, after World War II, people started going out into the desert. Bureau of Land Management was managing these properties and using it as recreation. And they saw the names and they started to imitate what they saw the former soldiers do there and started arranging the rocks to put their names down. Well, it really took off. It was initially known as Graffiti Mesa, but today it's known as the Valley of the Names. So just to kind of give you a scale of how big the Valley of the Names is, it's huge. And it's one of the most unique places in the United States, maybe in the world, in terms of graffiti that you can ever see. It's over 1,200 acres in size, so that's roughly 2 square miles. It's estimated there's over 10,000 names of monuments, rock monuments on the desert floor. And it's all strung along a series of dirt roads. And it's roughly about 1.6 miles in length and still growing. Now, these rock monuments, the names that are associated with these rock monuments are typically families, and they'll list their children. It can be lovers, people that fall in love. They'll go out there and arrange rocks with their lovers' names on it. Pets. But the most touching and the most elaborate monuments that are out there are those for loved ones that have passed on. So the geology also has a big reason why the name started appearing there. So there's 3 key elements regarding the site. One is that the valley is covered with this hard-packed, light-colored clay soil called bentonite. In addition, it has other light-colored minerals, felsic minerals in it. So the desert floor has this tan to light color floor. The second aspect of it, the geology of it, is that the surrounding mountains are jet black basaltic rocks. As those mountains have eroded, when it occasionally rains out there, which it doesn't do very often, those rock fragments are washed down into the valley, and they stand out greatly being on top of that very light colored tan soil. So that made it attractive to arrange and make your name stand out. But the third aspect of it is that the geology, the tectonic activity out there, faulting, has pushed the valley floor upward slightly, which has caused it to be incised with little drainage dishes which create these slopes on it. Think of the slopes as a picture frame that you can write your name that's hanging slightly on a wall. Your names are going to stand out more on a slope than it is if it's laying flat on the ground. And so it became very attractive by people to write their names on those slopes. So if you're planning on coming out to the Valley of Names, just a word of advice, don't come out in the summer months. It's extremely hot in this part of the Southwest desert. It can literally be in the hundreds for a month at a time out there. And it doesn't cool down much during the nighttime. It can still be in the 80s and 90s. So if you get stuck out there in your car with little or no water, you can be in big trouble. It is remote. The other aspect of it that you need to be aware of, you can drive a standard vehicle out there. You don't need to have a four-wheel high clearance vehicle. But to be safe, I would recommend that you are in one and go out there. Don't go out there by yourself. If you do get stuck, again, cell service is kind of sketchy out at this location. And then lastly, if you're going out there and you're planning to do a monument to your family or friends or your loved ones, be aware that most of the jet black basaltic rocks have already been utilized for that area where the names are. So you're going to have to pick up some rocks as you're driving out there before you get to the area that have the monuments, and put it in your trunk and then be able to create your name. Because if you don't, you're not going to find any rocks available to create a name. So I just want to end on a personal note. My biological father, and this is the reason why the Valley of Names and the camps, the desert training camps that were created by George S. Patton during World War II, are important to me because my biological father trained in one of these 12 camps. I don't know which one because his records were burned during a fire at one of the Veterans Records facility in St. Louis, Missouri. 4 retired in the Midwest. Their records are gone now. But I've been able to piece together what my father told family members, and what I heard from him is that he was sent out there. He did the training, desert training, and then was sent to North Africa where he fought the Germans in World War II. And from what I hear, he loved to brag about how he personally fought against the famous German General Rommel, the Desert Fox, which initially the British and the Americans were really plummeted by his tactics, which were very superior to the American-British soldiers. He was then, after they pushed the Germans out of North Africa, his division was then sent to Italy, where they fought the Germans and the Italians, pushing the Germans northward out of Italy. And he fought in the Battle of Anzio, where the American general at that time did an incredibly poor job of leadership, and they were trapped in a valley of Anzio with the sea to their back, and the Germans surrounded them on the surrounding mountains and just shot down into the American soldiers. And eventually the American soldiers did fight their way out, but American soldiers were killed. He did capture a German officer, as the story goes, and he noticed that he had a bandage on his arm that looked bigger than normal. So he unwrapped the bandage that was on this officer's arm, and underneath it was a disassembled German Luger. And he captured that as a war prize. He assembled it, took the holster too, and looking at the markings on it, it was built in 1941 in Germany, and it has the German Nazi swastikas on it, which is a very prized pistol to be able to have. I have the legacy and the burden of making sure that that pistol is never sold, and it's passed on to one of my grandchildren that will carry on that legacy and never sell it, never abuse it, and pass pass it on, hopefully for generations with that story. Anyway, I want to thank all the servicemen that trained in these desert centers in the South, including Camp Pilot Knob, in addition to my father, and thank them for their service and for creating what we have today as the Valley of Names, the little treasure that we have there in the desert. Folks, I love you all. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you find this video, my videos helpful, please like it and share it with others. Have a great day and a great life. Love, Joe.